Hi, I'm Shannon from houseimprovements.com. In today's video, I want to show you how to use a biscuit joiner. So first off, a biscuit joiner is most commonly used in cabinetry work, that sort of thing, where you're trying to join two surfaces together without using any kind of mechanical fasteners like screws and nails, or it might be in combination with those. So the biscuit joiner, simply what it does is there's a little blade down here, and I don't know, maybe up this way is the best way to show it, right here, that cuts in. It's like a little saw blade, and what it'll do is cut a groove into the edge or the surface of whatever material you're trying to join, and in that groove you can insert these different sized wooden biscuits, depending on what you're doing, sort of thing, with glue, of course. So first off, some of the adjustments on this are you can adjust the angle of what you're joining to. So if it's a 45 or whatever, you can adjust this plate. Most times you're going to be using it 90 degrees or folded right up out of the way. So at 90 degrees. Then the other thing you can do is adjust the height of this up or down, and that adjusts where the actual center of the biscuit is going to be, which is indicated by this red line on the side of this particular one. On the back side here, somewhere on your biscuit joiner, you'll find a dial which will indicate which size of biscuit you're using. So it'll basically just it'll adjust how deep that saw blade plunges into the product you're using according to the size of biscuit that you want to use. So those are the main functions. To adjust this piece up and down, there usually be two knobs. There'll be a locking knob and then a dial that will basically rotate or slide this up and down. So we got that. You got your trigger down here. This is a corded model. I'm not 100% sure if there are cordless models or not. Then they generally all will come with some sort of a attachment for a dust bag, which goes in there, and they actually do a half decent job of catching most of the wood chips. So like I said, some of the functions of this particular tool, if you had a wood tabletop or any two products that you wanted to join together like this and get a flat surface here or a smooth surface here, that would work good for that. Maybe you want to join the two of these like this. The biscuits would go into this edge here and into this edge and form a corner, or any angle like I showed you there before. You can basically do any angle of it. Or maybe it's a shelving unit, and this could be a long gable and this is a shelf, and you want it biscuit jointed into the edge, so anywhere into that shelf you could do that as well. Safety wise, if you're ever changing the blade, which most people probably will hardly ever do that, you obviously want to have it unplugged to do that and follow the manufacturer's instructions. As far as safety gear, we want to use some safety glasses and hearing protection, which I will use when we actually demo the tool. Other things you're going to need an adhesive, you're going to need the biscuits, and you're going to need something to mark your locations with. So we're going to do a really simple join, and we're just going to join these two materials together. Now you're probably wondering, well, how do I know where the biscuit's going to be and to get them lined up in the two different surfaces? Because in this case we're going to have a few biscuit spots in that one and this one, and they've got to line up, right? So position your two pieces of material how you want. We'll say in this case we want them flush at this one end, and just simply take a pencil and make a perpendicular line with your pencil to the surface that you're going to be cutting. So we'll just do three like that. Okay, so we've got those three marks just like that. And so when I take this one away and go over here to do the joint, what I want to do is line up this center mark, which is going to be the center of the slot, with that mark there, and put this plate right tight down onto that surface. Okay, so I'm going to actually just demo that. I'm going to plug this in, my hearing protection. And I'll zap 3 biscuit spots into each one of these pieces of wood. Okay, so you want to hold this down. You can clamp it down if you want onto the work surface so it's not moving. And you're generally using this just by hand. So you can notice the blade isn't sticking out right now because it only sticks out after, I'll unplug that, after I push in, and it'll just cut into the wood. So you can easily line it up with that red mark that I spoke about down here. Okay, now I'll plug it back in. So I'm lining up my red mark here with that reference line that we had there. I'm holding this part down tight to the surface, and I'm holding the main body of the tool against this edge. Then I can pull the trigger, which is back here, let the motor get up to speed, and then plunge it into the wood until it bottoms out. Now, well, I should have set my depth a little different. I didn't actually look at that, but generally you usually are probably going to want that to be in the center of whatever you're working on. Okay, so that's one. I'll just do all these other ones. Okay, so what you do then is you want to obviously add glue. So you put some glue in here, there we go, into the joint, onto your surface just like you normally would, wherever you want it. Okay, so we've got our glue in there. We're going to use the number 10 size biscuits is what I had it set to. You just want to get them pushed into the first side. Basically centered in the hole and pushed in as far as you can get them in there. Okay, like so. Take your other half. I'm not putting a ton of glue in there because this is just a sample, but so you want to get a good amount of glue in there so you're getting a good fill and good contact with the biscuit. Lay your two parts down. You might have this set up on some bar clamps or whatever, depending what you're putting together. Put the two together like so, and then just use some clamps to draw it together tight. Okay, set it to the side, let it dry, and you'll be good to go. Maybe you want to throw it through the planer afterwards, or maybe it's finished just like it is, and it'll join those two surfaces together. If you're building a wood tabletop, like using solid wood, and you're looking at the ends of your wood, you want to kind of alternate the grain direction in your pieces, and it'll help keep your tabletop flatter. So say you look here and the rings of the tree and the piece of wood are curved something like that. You want this one, the rings to be, going the other way. So they're kind of alternating back and forth, and it'll help you create flatter tops and keep them from cupping and warping. Okay, so now let's say, I'm just going to pull this apart. Gonna have a real mess here. Let's say that we want to create that 90-degree corner that I kind of used as an example before. You might be wondering, how we're going to do that. So just using these two same pieces of wood, let's say that we're wanting to do something like this. So now what I want to do, so the two surfaces that I want flush to each other are the ones that I want to mark. I'm just going to turn this around so we get new marks. So if this is the two sides we wanted to have flush to each other, those are the sides we want to mark. So we put our marks out here, and I'll show you why. Because we already knew when I did this one before, we put our tool on top of here. That sets our depth so that we know how far we are down from there. Now with this one, I've actually got to flip it up like this and put it here, because this is the same, this surface here is the same as this, right? Because we wanted them flush. So we need to make sure we're putting the two surfaces we want flush to each other up to the bottom of this plate here, otherwise it's not going to work out. Okay, so To do that, I'll just throw on my gear here again. It's a little more tricky, and you might, until you get used to it, you might want to have this piece of wood clamped in a vise or something like that. Make it easier and more stable. But it's really the same operation. We're sitting down on there, pushing up to there, and then we make our joint. This probably isn't going to work out so well. I'm going to have so many holes, but then you do your other piece. And then we can do the same thing. We'd put our glue in there like we did the last one. Get our biscuits inserted in the right spots. Glue on here. And then these two could go together and be clamped together. Like so. So then you get a flush edge here. So you just need to make sure you're orientating it correctly both times. If you're doing the cut, if you're doing the cut where you're adding a piece into the center of something else, you don't really have an edge. You have an edge on one of them, but you don't really have an edge here to use. What you need to do is make your marks. I'm just going to use these same ones that we had. Make your marks, right? You come down, out, down, out. You're going to have a line across here, so you know that that's actually the surface you're lining up with. And then what I do is I take my tool, my joiner, flip this up out of the way, and then I take a measurement on my particular tool from what it is here to the bottom of that blade, and I will clamp a straight edge on here and use it as a guide. So I can push my my plate up against the straight edge, and I'm wanting the same distance that I had routed them in on this side. Straight edge against here, say this is our straight edge, clamped on. I can just put it up there, line up with my pencil line, and plunge it in. I'm not going to do that one here. I've got too small pieces to monkey with, but that's how you would look after doing that type of situation. And you'll find other uses. You might even, I've even in the past just made a groove in a whole piece of the edge of a wood and put a whole long big spline in it. It's just a matter of making a few cuts, and then once you got a few cuts in there to get rid of the bulk of the wood, you can just basically pull it along like that. But that's not a recommended usage, but you're always going to come up with some different ways to use it. So that's the main stuff that I can show you with the biscuit joiner. Like I said, it's mostly used in cabinetry, but you might find some other uses for it too if you own one in other projects that you want to do. So like always, please click the thumbs up if you like our video. You can check us out on all our other social media type sites that we have, and we have links in the description below this video to get to our Facebook and Patreon and Twitter and all that stuff. So check us out there.